Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our UDA Technologies Construction Suite Overview webinar. My name is Ian Schaefer, and I'm going to be the product specialist taking you through Construction Suite today. And as a primary purpose for our overview webinar, I hope to show you what tools and capabilities the program gives you access to, and how to go through and use a lot of these tools as you're working in your day-to-day requirements there within your companies. Of course, as we're going through the webinar today, I would love for you guys to send in any questions or anything like that that you might have. Again, this is going to be a broad overview, so it will probably move at a relatively fast pace. So if you do have any questions or there's anything else that you would like to cover as we go, take a look at that GoToWebinar panel. You guys should find the area on there marked questions and send in any of those questions as you have them. We'll be sure to either cover them during the webinar or at the end. We'll also be recording this webinar today so that we can post an updated version for YouTube. So if you guys haven't taken a look for us yet on YouTube, I highly recommend that you go to youtube.com, search for UDA Technologies. You'll find a whole family of videos, both short little 5 to 10 minute tutorials and obviously a series of recorded webinars like this one today. Now again, our primary focus for the webinar is to just do a broad overview for Construction Suite. So we'll be touching on a lot of the major features as we go through the program. Of course, main interface is going to be the place that we're going to start with most of this work. We're going to be talking about calendars and to-dos, your contacts, the projects that you create within the system, and how they all interact together. We'll also be taking a look through some of the estimating, scheduling, and contract writing tools available through Construction Suite as well in OnCost, OnPlan, and OnPoint, I believe respectively there. We'll take a brief moment to cover some of the QuickBooks integration topics there too. Just bear in mind that as a broad overview, we're going to be going through these things quickly. Don't forget we do have additional webinars both later this week or recorded online to cover some of the more specific details in there for things like QuickBooks integration, or later this week we'll be doing estimating and reporting as well. So join us for that one if you have the chance. Just to give you an intro though to the program, this is Construction Suite 8. And I have logged into the program, and we are here on the Today page on the dashboard element for this page. Now in the main Construction Suite interface, there's going to be a fair amount of information that we gather together in this dashboard page, and it's designed to give you a quick at-a-glance review of everything that you are doing in the Construction Suite software, the Construction Suite system. You'll also find that most of the tabs on this page provide additional detail depending on which version of the product that you're working in. And you'll see some of these tabs up here, like the Summary tab, which just gives you a broad overview for recent contacts and projects and files that you've been working in. The Dashboard tab is a great one for going in here and tracking your profitability across some of your live projects or checking your lead pipeline. Of course, this is going to be available within the Premier or Premier or Catalyst versions of Construction Suite and above. All versions will also have a cost breakdown, and the majority of the most popular versions also have the change order management feature. Again, Premier or Catalyst and above, and you'll see that as an element here of the dashboard. As you move across from here, there's an activity history page that shows you who was working in which projects, what files they saved, any notes that were posted to those as well. You'll see these under activity history. For those of you working in the commercial product family, you'll find a correspondence overview tab for tracking RFIs, submittals, transmittals, and things like this. Company overview is going to be your bird's eye view, available in the corporate and developer versions and above. And the work in progress, or WIP report, is going to pull all the financials together. Now again, from this Today page, when you first log into the system, it takes you to this page, which again, this just gives you a good rough idea on where you stand on your projects. What I hope that you get out of this page is some good idea of where you stand on your live jobs, but it's also going to give you quick access to some of the projects that you might need to work with, or some of the details for those projects as well. Again, for those of you working with the multi-user versions or the corporate developer and above, when you go to the company overview page, for example, this shows you all of your projects broken down by group and how much you've got invested in each of these jobs. Work in progress is going to help you track your profitability, so as you're working with systems like QuickBooks or other accounting tools or systems, you'll find that this is going to be pulling together all of your contract values and your actual costs and things like that. Again, with the focus here being you want to maintain profitability on these jobs, but you don't necessarily want to have to spend a lot of time to track that. And these tools do all that work for you. So from here, both the dashboard and WIP report give you good ideas on your profitability for your jobs. Company overview shows you your investment and how well it's paying off. Correspondence helps you keep up with all the different people and questions that are coming through. And activity history and summary give you a live idea or a live feel for what you're working with. Now, of course, these pages, all of this information, like the dashboards and the overviews and the WIP reports, these are all end results or live results for the jobs that you're setting up, that you're working with as you're going through the ConstructionSuite system. The majority of what you work with in a day-to-day process, though, in ConstructionSuite, especially while you're in the office, is going to be a lot more process-driven, and that's really where ConstructionSuite shines. Within the ConstructionSuite system, you have the ability to set up templates for estimating tools, schedules, contract and document templates, and report templates that you'll be using for these. All of this information is going to come together for your projects and your contacts. Projects can now be templated as well, or you can work with project types to organize your step-by-step. And all of that information is going to be viewable again from the project page, which gives you all the details for your projects, or the contacts page, which gives you all the details for your contacts. And you'll find that this information is going to be pulled together or come together for all the different jobs and the contacts and things like that that you're working with as you go. Now, again, the system is going to provide a great amount of information, but of course, like with any system, we want to make sure that you have the ability to kind of focus in on what you're working on. So we'll cover a lot of the tools that help you with that as well as we go through the process. Projects will do the same thing. And then, of course, because we're managing a company here within the ConstructionSuite system, you'll also find things like a company calendar and a company to-do list in here as well, which just shows you all the details and everything like that for the projects that you might be working with at any given time. And most of these projects are going to be organized either by color, or the way you display them might include things like activity icons or project names in the content. You'll also be taking a look at the to-dos and pulling information in from other systems like Outlook or calendar activities from Google Calendar. You can send things to Google. You'll also be able to pull in files and documents into your projects and files tab here in ConstructionSuite as well. And of course, all of this information is being built from the ground up by you and your team using a lot of the tools and experience that ConstructionSuite will provide through our 20 years in business that we've been working with tools and systems and processes like these. So of course, all of this information, again, kind of comes together and it builds off of each other as well. One of the primary focuses in ConstructionSuite is to take information that you've entered into a system one time and apply it to everywhere that it belongs. Now, as an example of this, I'd like to start off by kind of taking you through some of the template features and functions in ConstructionSuite, just briefly to give you an idea of what you're looking at, and to figure out why entering the information in early provides a huge payoff on the job by job or in the long run. So, and as we're getting started, we're going to be moving down through the left navigation panel. Typically going to be going down feature by feature, but we'll take a look at this in just a moment. To give you a broad idea, though, for everything else, when you're in the ConstructionSuite system, you'll see me navigating back and forth between projects and contacts, or between the template sections and where they apply. You'll find that the navigation, or the toolbar up at the top, provides a lot of shortcuts for these things, like the new menu, for example, gives you the ability to create new contacts and new projects or new estimates, what have you. From the data menu, you can pull in information or create backups. The reports menu just gives you quick access to some of the reports that we'll be taking a look at over the course of the job. The tools menu is a great place to go and configure new users, to set up some of your basic options in ConstructionSuite, like project types or some of the default settings that you may want for projects. You'll also be able to configure your SuiteLink settings. SuiteLink is one of the features that becomes available through the Total Care package. So if you're a Total Care subscriber, set up your SuiteLink in here. And then, of course, the Help menu provides all the guides and the details and things like that too. If you haven't taken a look, the Help guide in ConstructionSuite is very thorough. It's very detailed. But you'll also find some contact information in there as well, to reach out to myself and my team should you guys have any questions and you don't want to necessarily dive into the almost 500-page help manual. So if you guys have any specifics, by all means, come into the help menu, find our contact information through the online assistance drop-down menu or the contact information page, where you'll find all the details for us here as well. So that's a rough idea on the toolbar. Over on the right-hand side, again, you can see more quick access tools. There's a recent projects list. Literally, it's just the most recent project going to be at the top of the list, and you work your way down. You'll also have some quick links in here and a brief little calendar. For those of you who have this page hidden, I'd like to kind of draw your attention to the little buttons that might be over on the right-hand side of the screen. It almost looks like a little rectangle with an arrow in it. If you click and hold on the bar containing that button, you can drag it out to expand this right side panel. And again, it's an extremely beneficial tool for going through and quickly jumping back into where you left off. So you've got some quick access tools on the right side panel. You've got some more under the toolbars up at the top, but most of what you'll be working within will be over on the left-hand side. Now again, as I mentioned earlier, the majority of this starts with templates. When you're first getting the ConstructionSuite software set up, there's a handful of key features or aspects of the program that you'll want to focus on initially. And one of the most important, what I would consider to be a cornerstone within the ConstructionSuite system, is your estimating section. Now when you go into the estimating page, you'll find 3 primary tabs to work from. Again, you've got a dashboard, which allows you to jump in where you left off, or dive in where you left off on any of the projects that you've got. This gives you a good list of recent estimates. So literally, if you're working 3 or 4 or 10 estimates at a time, you can find that list here rather than jumping project to project. You'll also notice on the dashboard, for those of you who have Premier or Catalyst and above, there is a change order summary portion on the left. For everybody, you'll find the cost breakdown up at the top. Now, the reason we make this cost breakdown so prominent for you is we find that most construction companies tend to have the same distribution on costs for most of their projects, and we give you this distribution by classification. So of course you'll find the 5 primary classifications here: material, labor, equipment, subcontractor, and other costs. And as you're working through these projects, you'll find that this distribution is going to be fairly uniform across your jobs, and you'll see this as you're going through the estimates themselves. So again, the dashboard tab on the estimating page allows you to see where you left off, reminds you of what your jobs typically look like, and gives you a brief idea of change orders so that you can get all your documentation set out for that. But beside the dashboard, you'll find the templates tab. The templates tab is this is the area where you'll find and update any of the estimate templates that you have within the ConstructionSuite software. Now you'll find that in this section, for everybody, there is a number of different templates that we provide by default. Depending on which package you have, you will find, let's scroll down to the bottom, you'll find a section here for subcontractor estimate templates, and these would typically include some templates that were built for specialty trades. Now, of course, over the course of 20 years, we've had millions of different contacts or millions of different people working within the systems. They've all provided feedback to help us kind of hone in on what might provide the best starting point for these estimates. So if you open up the electrical master, it's going to cover most of what the average electrical subcontractor may need when doing homes or office buildings or something like that. Same holds true for mechanical, so if you do any HVAC or mechanical work in projects, the mechanical master may be a great place for you to start. Plumbing, very straightforward. Site work and landscaping, again, same thing. These templates are designed to provide for you the best starting point for any of these projects, which you can then kind of go in and focus and reorganize a little bit to fit your specific company and your needs and your wants. Now, as you move up from there, you'll find the residential estimating templates, again, available in all versions of ConstructionSuite. These would include a residential master or a remodeling master. Both of these templates are built in the order of construction. So you'll typically find that they start with planning, and then the remodeling master will dive into demolition or tear down. The residential master just goes right into foundation, which remodeling we'll get to next. Then you get into framing, exterior windows and doors, roofing, and so on. So again, you'll find that the categorization or the organization in these estimates is typically done by trade from the ground up as the projects would progress. You'll also find in the next section up, which is available in all commercial versions, in addition to residential estimating and the subcontractor estimating templates, the commercial products provide all of these commercial templates. Again, commercial and light commercial projects could benefit from our commercial and light commercial master templates. Again, same idea in the order of construction. We organize all this information to provide you a step-by-step outline for everything that might be included on full-scale commercial projects or light commercial, which I find a lot of tenant improvement builders use as well. Now, in addition to that, we also provide some good summary outlines for the CSI 16 and 50 division formats as well. Of course, for those of you who are familiar with CSI, you'll know that in 1995 they came out with this 16 division structure, organizes most of your costs of construction into these divisions. They updated that in 2004 into a new 50 division structure, which has been kind of refocused and rebuilt and added to several times in the past decade and some change. I think now we're up to like 56 divisions or something like that. But ultimately you will find most of that information here. And where these differ than the master templates that we provide, first of all, they follow the spec as outlined by the Construction Specifications Institute. Very important that that's in there. But beyond that, we find that a lot of people just like to have that kind of coding structure available, so we make most of that information available here. You will find that most of these are going to organize your costs into things like, for the 16 division, for example, it's going to start with general requirements. As you move down through it, you might have Division 3 concrete, Division 4 masonry, 6 is woods and plastics. I think 15 and 16 are mechanical and electrical. But as you work through it, you'll see all of this information organized and outlined there. We do try to follow the spec as best as possible. Of course, we do leave out some of the things that we find are very, very specialized, but you can always customize or edit or modify some of these templates or create your own copies, which you will find in the template up above. So next we have our custom estimating templates, and with the custom estimating templates, these are literally your templates, the ones that you have built or that you have customized to create your own set. As you're looking through these, you'll find that the tiles give you each of the individual templates, where you can also put in a brief description for the template itself. And on all of these tiles, you will find an open button, an edit icon, and a favorite icon. The favorite icon basically just bookmarks that as one of your favorite templates and puts it up at the top of the list so that you can have a faster access to the templates that you want to use. You'll also find with the edit menu that you can go into and edit not only the name of the template, but the brief description that you've given or the contents for those templates here as well. If you have too many templates and you want to get rid of some, you can delete or preferably export and then delete these templates as well. Exporting them first creates like a little mini backup of that file so that you don't lose it in case you're deleting the wrong one by accident. So always export first, delete if you don't need this one afterwards, and then click OK. And that updates your template list. Now again, these are all estimating templates. We'll open up one of these estimates and take a look at it here in just a moment. But with these estimate templates, you'll also find that the next tab over is going to be the items database. The estimate templates should help you build a structure for your estimates. It's all about categorizing or subcategorizing all of the costs. Again, if we're talking about woods and plastics, in woods and plastics, you're probably going to have some things in there like framing materials, you might have roofing materials, you might have interior trim materials, you could have decking, you could have things like this. So you'll find various different sections in your woods and plastics, or if you go in with the master template, you'll find framing materials and all these different things in the framing section broken out by floors or walls or ceilings or whatever it might be. But the specific items will typically come either from a manual data entry process. You guys can go in and add whatever items you feel like you need, or you can create cost books for those items. Now again, same as before, ConstructionSuite gives you a leg up by providing a lot of information for you to begin with. Before you even get started putting together your own information, we provide RS means pricing data within the ConstructionSuite software, and you'll find that RS means pricing information here. For those of you using the residential packages, you will receive 4 cost books. That's going to be the residential and repair remodeling cost books, each in 16 and 50 division. That's 4 total there. Residential 16, residential 50, repair remodeling 16 and 50. And then as you move into the commercial, you get those 4, plus we start to include additional cost books as well. Light commercial, the pair of light commercial cost books shows up in the light version of ConstructionSuite. As you move up to contractor, we include BCCD. And then as you move up to the catalyst and above, we also throw in the commercial cost book with assemblies as well, which has somewhere in the neighborhood of about 40,000 items in it, with the ability to apply your regional multiplier here, which could be a zip code or a postal code or a region in Canada. These cost books are built for the United States and Canada, so you'll find most of the pricing information there. And then of course, in the cost books themselves, you'll see the item structure and the assemblies structure for those that include assemblies, like the commercial and residential cost books. Specifically those titled commercial or residential. Repair remodeling I don't think includes them, and I don't believe light or BCCD will either. That said, they all include items. The items are searchable as well, and you'll find within this a material quote, a labor quote, an equipment, a subcontractor, and another quote to give you a total quote for the install per unit. Now, of course, these items are provided by RS Means. They've been providing pricing data for construction companies for decades. I couldn't tell you exactly how many, but they started well before we started providing software. And we provide their pricing information, which is based on national averages, and the multiplier just kind of helps you focus in on your area. So if you don't know how much something should cost, by all means, check the cost books. They'll provide some pricing information or a baseline for you. We've also had a lot of clients use this as a point of reference to see if subcontractor quotes are close. Because again, you can check your prices by linear feet or square feet or however you're measuring these things out. If you're doing packages, you can also go to the Assemblies tab and see these things, like interior walls, for example. You could do interior partitions. Just go into the Assemblies tab, go to the interior section, go to interior finishes, and you will find interior partitions here, like drywall and things like that. Paint and drywall. I think this includes not floor finishes. I was talking about wall finishes. This would include everything for painting and covering, paint trim, and things like that as well. So use this to include the full package, and that way you can kind of price check the people that you work with. This is a beautiful tool for that, and you can always just kind of use this as a negotiation. The national average might be XYZ. The guy is overbidding that by 25%. You know that he does a great job, so he's worth a little extra, but maybe you can pull him back down a little bit from there. So again, this is going to provide you with the pricing details if you use it. You'll also find that there are options to come into and create new cost books or new items and assemblies within cost books that are yours, and you can do that right here. So this just allows you to go through and build new sets, which you could then use to price out your estimates for jobs that you're building as you go. So this is most of the estimating. Again, very important. You'll find several different templates in here with a category, subcategory structure that you want to try to stick to as much as possible. The items you can either build as you go into the estimate, or you can insert them from your cost books as well. We'll look at that in just a moment. And as that information comes together, your typical next steps would be building schedules and then drawing up contracts and things like that, maybe in flip order, but they're available in there. So the next page down will be your scheduling page. And from scheduling, you will find, once again, a dashboard. What are we doing this week? You'll find some templates and some recent schedules here as well. Once again, same thing. If you're working multiple schedules at a time and you're kind of juggling back and forth, this is the perfect place to go to open them all up or see all of them down here. From the template section, just like before with the estimating, you've got residential templates, you've got commercial templates, and of course you can mark these as favorites so that you can keep your templates up top. These are all going to open up in OnPlan, which is a Gantt chart scheduling software. And if you choose to use the templates, you can build them and save them here to kind of map out your projects. When you open it and apply it to a job, it automatically sets the project start date to today, but that's adjustable. And if you're building templates, just keep in mind that you want to typically include things like all of your groups and tasks that are usually involved in this type of project, with any of the predecessor relationships or links between those tasks. So all you have to do is set a project start date, and it will go through and at least adapt the order that the tasks are supposed to show up. From there, you can start plugging in durations to properly map out these schedules. Now again, these templates, just like with the estimating templates, they are all about designing a solid starting point for you. You want to typically build your structure for these. With schedules, you can also build in the dependencies as well. Don't try to make it too project specific for these, but I do find that some companies do get a lot of benefit out of setting up specific templates for given floor plans, for example. Our company owner, typically, back when he was running a construction company, he actually had a series of floor plans that he would use as his basis for most of his single-family residences. And whenever he would build one of those, he would open up the estimate template and the schedule template that followed along with those. And so he built these, and you can too if you do the same types of projects regularly. If you just wanted to do the broad framework, this is a perfect place to put those broad templates as well, and then kind of refine them as you go. Now with the contracts and docs, this section is a little different, obviously. When you come into the contracts and docs page, this is going to give you two tabs. The first one is new and recent, which again, same as before, recent files that you've been working on. And this is everything that may not show up under estimating or scheduling. So if it's not an on-cost estimate and it's not an on-plan schedule, it shows up here. So you'll see images and PDFs and other types of files in this list, but you'll also see a lot of the on-point documents here as well. And then for the contracts and reports, you can come over to the document template section where you'll see the contract tree, which includes, again, depending on your version, anywhere from 141 different contract and document templates up to over 200 different contract and document templates. And that's your starting point. Same as before, you can always go into and modify all of these contracts. So if you're looking for a cost plus contract, and you've got a cost plus fixed fee project that you're working on, and you're negotiating that, you can come in here and open up the cost plus contract dash fixed fee, and this gives you a full contract for that. You'll also find in here additional like fixed amount contracts, the standard contracts. You'll find design build agreements, you'll find conditions and addenda and architectural notes, remodeling contracts. There's even almost 70 different subcontractor specific contracts in here as well. Same as before, if you need to make any changes, you can always open up the file, save it as a new template, and you'll find that, or at least I find, that most people benefit most by creating their own folder down at the end of the list, which you can easily do by just right-clicking out in the space where all the files are. There's an option to create a new folder here. And if you create that folder, then that's where you can keep all of your own documents to make it a lot easier for you and your team to find the company-specific files that you want them using. You've got all the basic templates that we provide. All of them are going to be legally binding in at least 49 of the 50 states. California is special, but we also have under the Tools menu an option to download specialized content, which may include some California contracts and addendas. So for anything that you're looking at, start here. If you need to open them up, just double-click on the file. Now, in addition to the contract section, again, a whole lot of information available here, you'll also find as you scroll through that there are going to be documents sections, which would include a specification wizard. You'll find, for those of you using the green product family, there are green templates and tools available here as well. And for those of you using the corporate or developer versions of ConstructionSuite and above, you also find developer tools, personnel management and HR documents there, and property management tools as well, like lease agreements and applications and notices, forms and agreements, things like that. So a lot of additional information and resources depending on your product family. And for those of you who are administrators in ConstructionSuite, you may also find a report templates folder down here at the bottom. This is only available to administrators in the ConstructionSuite software. And the administrator could then go into and modify any of the templates for the reports that ConstructionSuite will populate into automatically. Estimating reports, schedule reports, correspondence documents like RFIs and RFQs. All of this information is going to be available to you here. If you need to modify any of them, once again, just right-click and edit the file or open the document as you need them. Now, this is going to cover most of the templates that you guys have available within the ConstructionSuite system. And as you're working through ConstructionSuite, again, you'll be able to modify or customize any of these templates. You can also save into these areas as well. OnPoint is also special in that if you ever need to start with a blank OnPoint document, you can open it up here. And rather than creating everything from scratch, if you're going to dive into the OnPoint program, you can actually import from systems like Word or any kind of text editing software. You'll even be able to import PDFs and turn them back into modifiable text documents, just as if you had pulled it in from Microsoft Word. Now in OnPoint, in order to do that, all you need to do is open up a blank document, go to the File menu, and you will find all of the import and export capabilities here too. Now I mention export because, again, we have, depending on your version, maybe as many as 200 different contracts available in the ConstructionSuite system. And the idea here is this is going to be your best starting point to come up with a package of contracts that are both legally viable and favorable to you and your company. But you always want to make sure that you get these double checked by any kind of legal team that you guys might work with. Now, this makes it really easy. You could just export it as a Word document, email it over to them or send it to them. They can make whatever kind of annotations they need to or adjustments, send it back to you, you import it back again, and then you can go to the file, back under the File menu, save as, template, boom. There's a new template for you and your team. You can even do things like insert images and letterheads and headers and footers and watermarks and whatever else you might want to include. The Tools menu will also kind of work to your benefit too, because you can insert what we refer to as auto-doc fields. Basically auto-populating fields, or what Outlook may refer to as like mail merge, I believe. The idea there being you can put in a little marker there that's a placeholder for the customer name. And that way, when you use this contract on a project, it automatically fills in your customer name, and then you can just move on to the next step. These AutoDoc fields are going to be available under the Tools menu and include just about anything that you can think of. We even set it up so that you can create your own fields and insert those here as well. So if you want custom fields, you can even do custom fields. Other than that, though, it functions and feels a lot like Microsoft Word. You just go in there and start typing in whatever it is that you need or copy-paste, and that just gives you that starting point that you may need. Now again, those are your template sections. Those set up all the information that you would need for your projects and for your details for any of your ongoing jobs. How you use them, though, is typically going to start with contacts or leads. Now again, in the ConstructionSuite system, we track all your contacts. This is going to be anybody that you may work with in a business environment. So you're going to see in this contacts list, you'll see clients and leads and vendors and employees and specialty trades. You might have other company contacts, or if you have a few branch offices, you may have some of the people from each other office in your lists here as well. You'll be able to go in and set up your own contact groups. In fact, there's an easy option to do that right here. And from these contact groups, if you're looking for a limited list, you can just click on the bubble up at the top to sort to that particular set. This just gives you the short list that fits that specific contact group. You'll also find that clicking on it again removes that filter. So you can remove the sort, or you can sort it back again. And again, any of the contacts that you're working with here can be assigned to any of these groups. And if you ever need to make changes, you can either click into the contact, just left click to go into the contact, takes you to a contact overview or dashboard, and then from here you've got a pencil icon. You'll also be able to do most of this through the right click menu as well. But since we're here, let's take a look at some of the contact overview information as well. So this is the contact summary page. The contact summary page is specific to this individual or this company. And from the contact summary page, you'll see everything that you have assigned to this contact, broken out by projects, by calendar activities, or here's your general activities, which could include scheduled tasks. You'll have all of the to-dos and additional tasks here, and if it's a lead, the summary view is similar, except that there's going to be more lead information down here in the bottom right-hand corner as well. Now, just like with the screens that we were looking at on the Today page, you also have some additional details here for contact history, which could include any notes that you might have posted. There's your new notes button there, so you can see those under the contact history. You'll also have options with the Premier and Catalyst versions and above for insurance tracking or certificate tracking, and so you'll see any expiration warnings coming in through the insurance and certificates section here. Now again, all the information that's showing here, to include the little Google Map plugin here, most of this detail is provided through the Edit Contact screen. So if you need to make any changes to what you see here, edit the contact, and it'll take you into the info screen where you can get into their core information. There are details. If it's a lead, you'll see lead details, addresses, which could be things like billing addresses or shipping addresses, or a physical office address, or they might have a P.O. box as a business address or something. On the Certificates tab, this is where you can actually go into and create new licensing for them, insurance or performance bonds or whatever it might be here as well. So again, if you're using Premier or Catalyst and above, you'll have a Certificates tab, which allows you to go into and add new forms, assign the provider, the license types in this case, expiration dates, licensing amounts or bond amounts or whatever it is. You can even add attachments here as well. So that could be an email attachment that you guys received, or a PDF or a scanned in document. Attach those here to make it a lot easier for you to go through and handle insurance audits if they come up. So you've got all of this information, and again, you can just switch back and forth between the different tabs, adding new ones as needed, and then updating the information for the new form that you add, and then click OK to approve them. The Associations tab also allows you to cross-link contacts, contacts to projects, whatever it might be, and the Custom Field tab to create new content here as well. Just add a custom field, tell the system what kind of field it is, and then you're good to go. Now again, this is going to be for all the people. As you're putting your people or your contacts into the system, all of them should come in like this, and you'll be able to see the information for the contact under the contact details, or what they're going to be working on in here. You'll also be able to navigate back and forth between projects and those same contacts here, just by clicking on the link for the project, click on the link to get back into one of your contacts, and it just takes you back and forth. It's an easy way to kind of jump back and forth between the systems. So again, these are some of your core details for your contacts. With leads, the information is going to be fairly similar, but the lead page just kind of helps you focus in on your leads a little bit better. Now again, unlike the contacts screen, this one typically defaults to your lead pipeline to show you how many leads you have and what stage each of them would be in as you're moving on. Now as you're working with these leads themselves, you'll notice that the right-click menu, unlike with the contacts, the right-click menu gives you a few additional details for your leads, like creating opportunities for leads instead of projects on the other page, or lead summary reports should you need them. You'll also be able to deactivate leads or change lead stages from here as well, stages or statuses. The idea with the lead tracking system here, and what you should definitely focus on, is maintaining the relationship with the contacts. This is where that relationship management tool comes into play. This is going to help you remember what sort of conversations you've had, what sort of conversations you need to queue up for next time or schedule or create appointments for, meetings for, and where you need to go with each of these contacts. Now with the contacts in ConstructionSuite, of course, you can pull these in from a number of places. The easy option is to add new contacts here for anybody that you are working with that you haven't added into the system, but some of you may find that you need to pull in large numbers of contacts all at once. From the data menu, you can sync in those contacts directly from something like Outlook or QuickBooks. I'm trying to combine those two there. But the data menu gives you the ability to sync those. What I find is a little bit more favorable, though, is importing CSVs either through the Outlook CSV format or the Google CSV format. If you don't know what this looks like, we also include the option to download the templates here as well, so you can simply export the Outlook CSV template, and if you have your own spreadsheet or Excel file that has all of your contacts in it, mirror this template that the system creates, and you'll be able to do everything else that you need from there. And again, you don't have to pick which one you import then. All you need to do is select Import CSV, and it will recognize which of the formats you're using and give you the details from there. Now in addition, you'll notice that the Contacts and Projects tabs tend to provide their information in this kind of tabled format. We find that the table format is a really, really good, effective one for automatically or quickly generating reports, and you can do that by right-clicking on any of your column headers to select whatever you would like to include. You can then go up to the View drop-down menu and group your contacts, and then it's just a matter of grabbing one of your contact fields, the header for the field, drop it into the little grouping column up at the top, and then you can group out all of your contacts from there. So it allows you to hyper-focus on whatever it is that you need to work on. You can even stack some of this grouping mechanism as well. So if you wanted to sort first by group and then by city, you can just pull them both up to the top, and then you can start pulling your way through. If you need to remove any of these groupings, just drag it back down into the body of the chart, and that removes the grouping function, or at least that portion of the group. You'll also be able to rearrange these columns too by once again dragging and dropping. In this case, just make sure that you don't accidentally drop it up at the top, or if you are going to reorganize everything, maybe switch it back to the standard view to remove that grouping possibility until you get everything in the order that you want, and then go back to the group by view and go from there. You'll also notice as you're grouping that you can click on the bubble sorts again to kind of take you through, or use the filters up at the top, or any of the options for limiting what's going to be accessible over on the top left-hand side as well. Now again, these are contacts. As I mentioned, contacts and leads are going to be the people that you're working with. The jobs that you're working on are either going to be in projects or opportunities. Now I know a lot of you are going to be working with leads and opportunities, but you may not necessarily know the difference. So we'll just give you the quick rundown on those. Ultimately, leads are going to be the people that you're working with, and nurturing your leads is going to be building the relationship with the people. But the jobs that you're going to be working on for those leads would typically fall under the opportunities header. So opportunities become live projects once you sign a contract. Leads become clients once you sign the contract. Some of you will want to work within both. You may have leads, they may have a couple of different projects that you're going to be fleshing out as you go. Some of you may work with one or the other. Any of these options are fine, but I find that developers typically work with leads as they're finding people to buy their houses that they've finished. Remodelers tend to work more with opportunities because one lead may have many different projects to work on. And you may find that some people just want to work on both, putting together estimates for a set of plans, which they're going to be tracking through the project itself. So again, your typical process then in this case would be create the lead, from the lead create the opportunity, put together your estimate, hopefully sign a contract, and once that contract goes live, you close the opportunity, you close the lead, both of them become then a project and a client, which would show up in your customer list or your contact list rather, and your projects list. Now your projects list, here we are, has some similar options to it as the contacts lists and things like that as well. So on the projects list, you've got some options here for doing things like reporting against your projects or importing from some of your cloud hosting file systems like Google Drive or Dropbox. You'll also find that the project types or project stages are going to be available here where previously you had contact groups or lead pipeline. And just like before, you've got the additional columns down here in the table, so you can go to the View By menu or View Group By menu here if you wanted to group your projects, or you can click on your filters or use the Filter By drop-down menu to organize the details. You can also right-click column headers to turn on and off various different project information, or drag the columns around to get the order that you need out of it. When you click into the project, just like with the contacts, you've got a project summary here. And the project summary is going to give you basic details for the job site location. You're going to have project details, which would be estimate information and schedule information. And depending on which version you have, you may also see change orders and applications for payment and correspondence and things like that here as well. You'll also see a short list of recent files, related contacts, which are typically going to be like the subcontractors or the customer for the job. You'll see the tasks for the project and the calendar activities or scheduled tasks here as well. To-dos, activities, and tasks. Just like before with the contacts, you do have some additional tabs up at the top. For your projects, you have all projects, the limited list of opportunities. You'll also have an even smaller list of project templates. So the idea here with the project template is you can go into and define the typical information that you would need for a project of this type. There may be a workflow associated with it. You might have some project dimensions that you want to go ahead and set up. You may even want to set up something as simple as folder structures for the job and go ahead and have some of the standard files in there that you need for every project, like safety manuals. All of that can be set up as part of a project template, and the templates stage, or the templates portion, is going to be here in this tab. Now beyond that, as I mentioned, you'll find workflows in some versions of ConstructionSuite. I believe that this is going to be Premier and Catalyst and above as well. Correspondence overview, which is unique to commercial versions. Project history, everybody has this. It just shows what kind of files are being saved in here and so on. Project insurance, again, Premier and Catalyst and above. All files and archive projects. All files for your projects. This is going to show you everything beyond what you see in the short list. So if you've got about 1,000 files in any given document set, in any given project, you'll be able to see them all here, whereas this just shows you which ones you were working on most recently. Archive projects, of course, is going to be where you put all the jobs that you've finished or that you didn't win. Those are all going to show up under archived, and that just kind of pushes them out of your primary lists to allow you, once again, that laser focus so that you can get done everything that you need to get done. So let's see. Within the project information, again, you've got everything that you're working with for related contacts from the estimates or the schedules that you've created. Project details for kind of navigating through quickly and to-dos and activities. And once again, the more information or content that you put together for these jobs, the more you'll see in these sections or lists as well. Now, as I mentioned, kind of stepping through these. Workflow, probably my favorite feature in the ConstructionSuite software. This is literally your process. This is the place where you go and you build the process for this type of project. And as you're building this process, it is your step-by-step checklist, including levels or layers, and they also include little action items for them as well. So, for example, if we hadn't completed anything in the list yet, our first step for pre-construction would be to enter the client or lead information. If we don't have the client in the system already, click the action item. Here is your contact quick add. Add the client now. Once that's done, check it off, move to the next one. Discuss and select options with client. When we click on the action item, it schedules an appointment for us. This is all about trying to set up that meeting so that we can meet with the customer to discuss and select options. Once that's done, create the contact package. Now obviously, this one is a little bit refined. This one is probably one of the developer projects where I already have the estimate for this type of job that we would be building. So if this were a Franklin model home, for example, the designs would already be in there. The estimate would probably already be there. The schedule would already be in the system. I would just need to update the project date and so on. So in this case, the workflow may seem to skip ahead a little bit, but if you go take a look at some of the default workflows in some of the projects that we have, like Lot 187 Baldwin Park or the Tremont Residence, I think the Darling Residence might be one of the templates as well. But if you go into and take a look at these, then you may find that the workflow starts at a much earlier stage that includes things like create project and create estimate and create schedule and so on. Beyond that, if you need to modify it, once again, we're going to go back to the right-click menu. When you right-click on the workflow, you will see options to add new workflow items, edit the existing workflow items, or reorganize the workflow items as we have them set up. You can also indent and outdent as well so that you can change the structure if you need to. But again, this just gives you a quick and easy way to build it out, and we all follow this process whether we do so on purpose or not. It's best to go ahead and put that process down so that if you feel the need to go take care of something outside of the office and you have to hand off your project for a couple of days, no problem. Anybody should be able to step in here and see what the next step is. And that's what you're empowering your staff to do. You give them the ability to go in there and follow the steps that you want them to step without having to harass you with questions every step of the way. So again, put the information together in your workflow here. You will find that this is going to get revised or evolve over time. This is a perfect place to go ahead and just make those slight adjustments as you go. Again, favorite feature. If you call me up and you ask me what my favorite feature is, I'm going to tell you this one because workflows spell out everything you could possibly want to know. We also have people call up all the time and ask what our intent was or the order that we expect everybody to work through. If you go take a look at the Tremont project or you take a look at the Darling Residence or one of the sample projects, if you open up the workflow on that job, you'll see most of the information available in there as well. So I highly recommend that you go have a look. You'll see everything that you may want to know about right there. Now, back to Lot 185 Baldwin Park. We were looking at workflows, again, correspondence for those of you using commercial projects. This is RFI submittals, transmittals. Project history, I don't need to see the notes. I also don't need to know what files I've opened up recently. That's not so critical. But we will go take a look at the Project Files tab because the Project Files tab is also very, very important. From this tab, you will see the system linking up with ConstructionOnline if you have SuiteLink in place. This is where you'll be able to go into and see all of your online projects, your desktop-only projects, the files that are hosted or shared in both locations. You'll see that information here. This is also where you can go and drag and drop documents in from your computer or right-click, again, and go to the Import from Online Services option here to import from something like Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive. These systems allow you to connect into those other hosting services and pull the files directly from those rather than having to download them to your computer and then copy them in. So this pulls the information together. As an administrator, you will also see files in here or options in this list like force check-in. If somebody left a file open and then they force closed or they closed their laptop and walked away and they didn't check the file back in, this is where you go to do it. If you have multiple copies of your estimate, let's say that you guys are going through and you are negotiating the estimate itself, you may want to change which one is the primary, and you can click on a file here and set that as the primary to change which one is your go-to estimate for the job, or schedule for that matter. You may also want to go into and lock an estimate. Once you're in contract, locking the estimate is very, very useful because this will prevent you from accidentally going into and making changes to the file. Lock it here, and that way it will remain as a read-only file to anybody who needs to go in there and do anything with it until it comes time for change orders, and we can talk about that later too. Actually, we'll probably end up covering that one in the estimating webinar on Thursday. So hold on to that one, make a note of it, and we'll go back to that. But this is project files. Again, if you ever need to drag and drop, you literally just grab the file, hold on to it from your desktop, and drop it in here. It'll load it right into the project for you so that anybody else who logs into this project would be able to see things like reports or PDFs or whatever it might be. And that just kind of pulls you through the process. So at this point, obviously, we want to open it up for any questions, but as we go through, I'm going to start with a new lead. I'll put together a lead, and I'll go through the process of creating an opportunity and an estimate for that job and a schedule from the estimate and things like that. So again, chime in if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and start with that. Now, as I mentioned, my personal process starts with the lead. When you go to the Leads tab, this will show you all the different people that you're working with, and if you have a new contact that calls in, you can click New Lead and put in their new contact information here. Now, of course, since this is going to be used to populate contracts and documents later, you generally want to put in as much information as you can. Moores Mill Road. And every bit of it is important too. So things like city, state, zip, obviously this is going to be home addresses or business addresses or something like that, 830. And things like phone numbers or mobile phone, this one is especially important. The mobile phone number and provider is how you may send text messages to this contact, the email for any email information that you may want to send out. As you move over to the lead details page, this is going to be the core information that you usually track for your leads themselves. Things like the probability that they will close or the stage that they're in at any given point, the referrals, custom fields, things like that. You can also go over and schedule appointments or go to the options menu here to predefine how you want these appointments to be scheduled. So my callback date is going to happen for me 7 days after I enter the lead into the system. This is my callback date to make sure that we've had a chance to not only kind of touch base on what sort of project that we want, but we also give them a little bit of time to kind of think it over and maybe plan it out or find a designer if they're going to be using something like that. And then we click OK. Now again, this will insert this new lead, and from that lead you can right-click and create an opportunity. Once again, from the right-click menu, creating the opportunity is putting together the project that's not yet in contract. I always recommend taking this approach if you have lead tracking available to you. If not, then you're probably just going to go straight to a client, straight to a project, and that's okay. Now from the opportunity details page, once again, we're going to be going through and setting up a new project here, Deaton Residence. The project type, which you can outline up through the tools menu again, allows you to pick which style of job this is going to be. You could be doing new homes, you could be doing residential or remodeling projects, you could set up lead projects, commercial projects, whatever it may be. Set those up here. You can group your jobs, set statuses or stages for your projects, and then go into and set opportunity details and schedule things like walkthroughs at this point. Now when you click OK, this is going to create the new opportunity, which will be where you store your estimates, your schedules, follow the workflows, set up your contracts, things like that. So again, as we're working through this system, you're going to be going into and setting up all of the information for the opportunity. Here we have the opportunity. And again, first place that you always want to go will be your workflow. Looks like I'm missing my workflow on this one though. So we'll skip that and go into the estimate. Creating the estimate at this point will allow us to jump right into and step into one of the predefined templates that I've put together within the ConstructionSuite system. So we'll go New. From here, I'm going to use the residential sample because this already includes numbers, and that way you guys don't have to watch me think about an estimate. So we'll click Next, verify the project details, Next, and then start to put in taxes if applicable. Now, most of the pricing information that I'm going to use will pretend has tax included already, so I'm just going to click Finish at this point, and this will give us an estimate. Always, first thing that I do with estimates, and I recommend you guys do the same, save the estimate to make sure that it commits to the project. That should always be step one. ConstructionSuite will be doing that right now as it's loading the file, but I still recommend setting the habit because it's a good habit to be in. Save early and save often. Now again, this estimate is going to be a little bit more detailed than your average estimate. This one's already going to include pricing for pretty much everything that I'm going to want to do. The only thing that may be missing from this estimate template would be things like company overhead margin. So I have to set my profit rates and things like that as we go to make sure that I get in there the information that I may want to use as a starting point. Now you'll also find that within the estimating system, here we are in OnCost now, within the estimating system, you will find that the information available is going to, first of all, start you on the project totals page. This is your summary page. This shows you a rough overview for your categories like planning and your subcategories like design services, and gives you a rough idea on how much each of these is going to cost your customer. You've got, realistically, I think 3 totals columns. There is an estimate column, which is just an extended cost. It's literally quantity times cost. Beyond this, you're going to have a total cost, which is how much you should expect to pay, and then a total price, which is how much you're charging your customer for this line item. The difference is typically going to be extended cost is quantity times cost. If you never paid taxes, that's what it would be. Total cost is typically going to be your estimate, the estimated cost or the extended cost plus sales tax. Gives you total cost. Total cost plus inline markup gives you total price. Total price adds up down near the bottom of the estimate to give you a project subtotal. From the project subtotal, you can add in a company overhead margin, which would be your target profitability and so on. So if you click on the company overhead margin section, this is where you may want to go into and set things like your company's overhead and profit numbers. I'm going to use 10, 8, and 2 as our targets for this estimate. And that's going to be a 10% margin is going to the cost of doing business, an 8% margin for my profit numbers, and a 2% contingency for 2% margin for the contingency on the job to cover, again, unforeseen expenses or crazy wild things that might come up over the course of the job. Maybe this job is actually being done in Wyoming and we have to account for delays due to bear attacks. I don't know. But whatever it may be, set it up as you need to here. And you'll notice that with the margin calculation, it's actually taking 10% of the contract amount, not 10% of the subtotal. So again, right now we're looking at a contract amount of almost $750,000. Of that, almost $75,000 is going to be set aside for my overhead. 8%, or almost $60,000, will be set aside for my company's profit on this job, and we've got almost $15,000 or 2% set aside for the contingency. If you are doing fixed fee contracts, percent margin is the way to go. It is the industry standard calculation method for these. If you're doing cost plus, you will want to switch over to percent of costs because that's the cost plus a percentage. If you're looking to insert a fixed dollar amount instead, maybe you are a cost plus fixed fee, instead of using the percent line here, you just put in a physical dollar amount here instead. And that will give you a raw dollar amount. Do not try to combine these numbers unless you're intending to increase your margins, which I would love for all of you to do. I'd love it if you could all increase your margins anytime you just thought about it. But in this case, if you do put in a dollar amount and a percentage, it calculates both the dollar amount and the percentage. So bear that in mind, please. Now, again, as you're going through the estimate, from the project totals page, you can click on a section that you want to enter into and update numbers for. So if you wanted to do trim and stairs, you click on the trim and stairs category. It takes you into the category where you can then either plug in lump sum dollar amounts for a bid that you received on those lines, or detailed dollar amounts. You'll also be able to, just like before, right-click on the column headers to show hide columns if you need to turn on something extra like line item markups or taxes. Those line item markup and taxes calculate regardless of whether they're visible, which is why you may notice that I have a quantity of one, a cost of $21.60, which again means I have an extended cost of $21.60, but there could be a sales tax, so the total cost could be higher. There could also be a line item markup, which makes the total price higher. So $35.20 doesn't surprise me on $21.60 as my unit cost, because that means that I do have markups of taxes or something applied as well. Now, this is an inline markup that could represent something like material delivery fees or freight charges or labor burden, perhaps. That, coupled with the company overhead margin, gives me a decent-sized markup that I may not want to have as a discussion point with the customer. The beauty of that is when you go to the Reports tab and generate something like a proposal, the proposals or project totals reports or several of the other documents and reports that you generate within ConstructionSuite give you the ability to distribute the company overhead margin into the cost, into the price of the items, so that your customer sees the price impact for each section that you choose to include. Now, you might not want to show prices on your proposals though, and that's fine too. These are all going to be options that the proposal wizard will take you through when you click on the proposal wizard up here under the Reports tab. You'll also find several other reports under here as well, which we break out into things like project management reports, vendor reports, customer reports, and the financials like estimate versus actuals. Now in the proposal wizard, we are looking at first going into the residential template set. From the residential template set, verify the details for the job. On the next page, pick which template you'd like to use. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the report templates folder is available for administrators. Everybody will also see the edit template links, although only administrators can edit the templates. So if you don't want to go into the report templates folder because you don't want to guess which template applies, use this instead. It's much easier, faster, takes you directly into the file that you need to make changes to, and those changes could be just about anything. So again, from here, pick your template, click Next. This is going to pull in some of the project details. This is where the project information starts to show up, like the project scope or special conditions, base price information, options, allowances, dimensions if you set them up on your jobs. And from the next menu, this is where you get to choose the meat for the proposal itself. So, and what I mean by that is the project totals portion takes everything that you've put together in the estimate, all the time that you've invested, the blood, sweat, and tears, puts it into the proposal in a way that you would be comfortable presenting to your customers. Now, this means that you may want to include the company overhead margin, but maybe prorate it into your categories so that you're showing them the spread or the distributed cost instead of a big lump sum at the bottom. You may also want to hide individual subcategory costs. I don't include my individual line items, so everything appears lump sum, but then I want to hide the lump sum values for the subcategories and show them categories only. If you don't want to show them categories either, hide those too. You may want to include notes that you've included. There's a notes section over here on the left, and if you want those notes, check the boxes and go through and double check the options below, include or uncheck anything that you don't want included. Finish to get the proposal. The proposal will be populated again in OnPoint. So from OnPoint, you can then go in and put the final touches on that document, maybe clean up the font or change your text sizes or whatever presentation materials you need to include on that proposal, you can do so now. And you will end up with a very clean, professional proposal for your customers. From there, you can either print it, you could export it as a PDF, you could email it directly to your customers. Yeah, see here I've got some stuff to clean up. Looks like I was playing with AutoDoc fields before. We've got some proposal details, and again, you can kind of see how it looks here. If you're curious, feel free to generate a proposal. You don't have to save them. If you generate one you don't like it, close it, don't save it. The system will act as though it had never existed. Otherwise, again, File menu if you want to export it as a PDF. You'll also be able to go to the Tools menu to email it as an attachment. You could go to the ConstructionSuite tab to upload it to ConstructionOnline and share it through one of the portals, perhaps. Or you can just go to the Home menu, the File menu again, and just print it directly if you'd prefer. So all of these are great options. Once you have it, though, don't forget, as soon as it's created, if you like it, if you're going to work with this one, before you try to send it, save it. That project that we created is under Opportunities. There's the deed and residence. So now we have an estimate, which I have not yet saved. Let's go back over to that one and save it. There is a proposal, which is setting us up for the contract. From the estimates, you can even go up to the File menu and create a new schedule. I believe it's File. Let's go back over there and check. Estimate. Oh, where did I put it? There it is. Estimate. File menu. Create a new schedule. There we go. And I use this option because this is going to take all of my categories and tasks, or all my categories and subcategories from the estimate, and turn them into groups and tasks in the schedule. I like that idea. If it has a price in the estimate, then it's going to have a task in the schedule. This goes through and creates that schedule for me. At that point, we can go through and start mapping out the tasks. Now, this is also where we get into the beauty of OnPlan. OnPlan is extremely easy to use if you need a simple scheduling tool. If all you need is to show what you're working on and how long it's going to take and where it falls on the calendar, perfect. You can literally drag and drop everything around on the calendar that you need to, or on the Gantt chart schedule here. You just take a look at the tasks details over on the left, and you've got your calendar building across the top. So if you wanted to drag something out, drop it on a day, extend it for a few days, you are fine to do so. You could then move on to the next one. Do the same thing. Permits comes after design services, so when I try to drop it afterwards, it makes a connection. It recognizes that these two things are related. Then we can say next comes lot costs. Construction financing happens around the same time as lot costs, but takes a week. And then we get into foundation. I want the whole group to come down here someplace. And then we can just start dragging the tasks around as needed. You, a couple of days earlier, many days later. So again, you've got drag and drop options. You've also got the task information over on the left. So if you would prefer to go into the task information and adjust the start dates, end dates, durations, or predecessor relationships, this is the perfect place to do it. The nice thing about that is, as you make adjustments here, it's auto-updating over on the right. So again, just set it up however you need. You'll also have the little slide bar here so you can zoom in or out depending on the size of your jobs. And also don't forget that while you do have the options to export, to print, to send to Google Calendars, or upload to ConstructionOnline, you also always need to make sure that you save it into the job so that it populates your company calendar. It just sets you up for all the meetings and appointments and activities and everything else that should be showing up from there too. Now, of course, this gives you an estimate, a schedule, a proposal. If you need one, you can go back to the Contracts and Docs page and double-click on a contract to open it up and save it into one of your jobs. Let's go do that since it only takes a few moments. I need a contract. It is going to be a fixed amount contract. Double-click. It will load up the contract. It'll ask you what your customer is, who the job is for, or where the job is going to be. Pick those two, and then click OK, and it saves it into your job. And then you need to save it into your job, rather. So here is contract. Again, hasn't populated anything yet. The wizard should be popping up here. There it is. I am doing this job for our friend Eric Deaton. And it is the Deaton residence. All right. And then we go to save it. We have a contract as well. Now, typically at this point, you would want to go into your opportunity, right-click on the opportunity, and change the status to closed won, because now we have a contract. You'll notice that it doesn't fall out of this list, and that's by design. An opportunity that falls out of the opportunities list looks like it never happened. But keeping it in there as closed won means that when you're reporting on your close rate, your success rate, you have the results of your successes. And that's important. So you need to be able to go in there and see those. But if you want to hide them, or if you want to group them or something like that to keep the important ones, the ones that you need to pay attention to the most, as opportunities up top, by all means, do so. Same thing would hold true for your leads. Lead that is won needs to be marked as such. Still stays in the list. Same thing. We closed on this lead. It was a successful relationship building exercise, and so now they're a client, but we also want to keep them here as a closed lead so that we can track that. And then from here, of course, if we need to send the information on from here, you can go to the file menu and send it up to ConstructionOnline as a ConstructionOnline estimate, where you can help track the budget there. You can also send it over to QuickBooks if you're working with QuickBooks Desktop and you'd like to integrate from here. And for the additional information, you'll be able to track most of that in the project itself. Also, don't forget, at any given time, you can be dragging and dropping additional files into the project. These files will come up over time on your jobs. As you're working with the schedules, you'll also notice that there is a % complete column that you can add in here. There we go. So there's additional columns, so you can be tracking your completion percentage as you work your way through the schedule. In here as well, updating everything that you need to as you go. And again, as long as you don't forget to set it as a primary and save the schedules as you're making changes and as you go, you'll also notice that the information shows up back in the calendars and back in your activity sets. So this is for July. There we are. Yeah. So design services is done. Next up, we would need to do some permits and some financing and things like that. You'll also be able to add tasks, by the way. You can't update your schedules from here, but if you have additional information that you need to add, all you need to do is double-click on the day, and it will give you the ability to create new activities, just like you would in any other calendar application. Some of the additional benefits here, though, of course, it's going to tie into all your contacts. It'll be able to send out email or text message reminders. From here, you can set up your reminder messages, or you can also set up recurring tasks on this page as well. As long as you come back to the activity and assign people to it, and a job for this activity, then it will also show up in all of your summary tabs there as well. So keep that in mind. You'll have different activity types that you can use as well. Treat those as your calendars, so to speak. From the to-do list, you'll be able to do similar things. New to-do, assign it to people, assign it to a job, track % complete, put in subjects and details, and this will also show up on the summary section. The primary difference here, by the way, is to-dos are one-off tasks that may or may not have a deadline. Calendar activities have a specific start date. You need to be there at this time. So we all know kind of roughly the difference, but by design, This list is, you could do it just about any time, but it's got to be done by a certain date. Activity has a start date and time. Be there or you might miss out. So that's your primary difference there. And again, all this information shows up back on your summary views for your projects and your contacts. It also shows up back on the Today page. If you take a look under the Summary tab, all of your recent tasks and recent activities will be here too. This is an excellent, excellent starting point. If you're interested in getting right back in where you left off the day before, set it up so that your system starts here. You can go to the Tools menu, go to Construction Suite Options, and actually pick some of your starting tabs right here. You pick where you want to start, and the system will make sure that you get back to the same place every time. So again, focus on these things, and you will find yourself spending less and less time in front of the computer because you're starting to automate a lot of these processes. The system is attempting to do its best to make sure that we cut out all of the double entry and this time spent re-entering the same piece of information over and over and over again. Boilerplate could be easily set up ahead of time, and as long as you stick to these processes, you'll end up cutting out initially maybe minutes, eventually hours or days, and maybe if you guys really focus in on getting some of the stuff into the system the way you might need it, you can also start preparing to hand off a lot of the stuff that you don't love to some of the employees that you get to hire with all the extra money you guys are making. So hopefully this means extra vacation time for you. But in the meantime, if you need any assistance getting anything in Construction Suite set up or configured, or if you have any additional questions, don't forget, you can always find our contact information in the Help menu under Contact Info. Give us a call or send us an email. You can reach us here anytime, 9 to 5 Central, 8 to 6 Central. But otherwise, this is going to wrap most of the information that we have for you today for our Construction Suite Overview webinar. Don't forget, we will be going into the specific details for estimating and reporting on Thursday, or if you are joining us from YouTube, take a look. The estimating and reporting webinar should be immediately adjacent or within the same little realm if you're looking at our channel, or I imagine that it's going to be in your feed over on the right of suggested videos. So with that though, again, my name is Ian Schaefer. I've been your product specialist for the Construction Suite software. Hopefully we'll talk again soon, but until then, you guys have a wonderful afternoon and take care.